Welcome to a meeting of your Planning Commission, the official local planning agency for the cities of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and unincorporated Hillsborough County. The Planning Commission provides innovative leadership and long-range vision that contributes to the creation of a thriving, prosperous community that offers opportunity, fairness, and choice in how we live, move, learn, work, and play. For more information about the Planning Commission, please call 813-272-5940. Follow us on social media or visit our website at planhillsborough.org.
Good evening. Welcome to the March 11th, 2019 public hearing of the Planning Commission on Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan Amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. If you will, please sign the register at the rear of the room and turn off any devices that may be a distraction. If you wish to address the Commission on a specific amendment, we ask that you please complete the appropriate public comment sign-in sheet at the back of the room. When addressing the Commission, please state your name, address, and speak directly into the microphone. For those of you who are not familiar with our process, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given an opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Commission when recognized by the chairman. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal or response. Planning commissioners will then ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, a second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. Roll call, please.
Good evening, Powell. Here. Dix. Here. Green. Present. Kress. Here. Marino. Here. Willman. Here. Thrower.
Here.
Joseph. Wilds.
Here.
Dickerson.
Here.
Rodriguez. Dowdy.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. The first agenda item is Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan Amendment 18-08. The applicant has requested a continuance. Is the applicant here? Please come forward.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Yes, we forwarded a letter to your attention requesting a continuance. The reason has to do with the Ripple Tract, as it's called, and known up in Temple Terrace, has been in that family for many, many years, back into the 50s. There are some historical subdivisions that have been carved out of that, and in the process of processing a plat, a number of questions that required extensive title review and non-conforming analysis has been done. And we just want to make sure that we move forward, that we're moving forward with a legal description that we can actually, that works. So okay. For that reason, we would ask. I'm sorry, for the record, Michael Brooks, 100 North Tampa Street, 7537, 33602, and here on behalf of the applicant.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners concerning this item? Would someone like to make a motion to continue this to the April 8th, 2019 Planning Commission hearing? Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Green, a second by Commissioner Dowdy to move this plan amendment to the April 8th, 2019 Planning Commission hearing. Any discussion before we vote? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We are moving on to item number 3, Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan Amendment 18-05.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jay Collins, Planning Commission staff. Up for you next is Temple Terrace Future Land Use Map Amendment 18-05. Basically, we're off Davis Road, just north of Temple Terrace Highway and just south of where Davis Road would intersect with Morris Bridge Road. You see in the star there that has the yellow around it. This is an aerial. The subject site is outlined in purple. The city's boundaries for Temple Terrace are in blue. You can see the single-family development throughout this area. You'll also see some larger tracts that are undeveloped directly to the west of the subject site. And directly to the north of the site, you'll also see a TECO right-of-way. So the background, this is publicly initiated by the city of Temple Terrace. This is an annexation. It is small scale. It's just over 1/4 of an acre. Currently in unincorporated Hillsborough County, it has a residential 6 land use. The city of Temple Terrace is requesting a residential 9 for this piece of property. That picture is actually looking south at Davis Road. This is the subject site itself. It is a single-family detached home. You can see there's been quite a bit of work as of late on it with the solar panels that are on it. This is looking at Elmdale Place. Basically, I'm standing right in the intersection of Elmdale and Davis Road, looking east into the neighborhood. And this would be looking north along Davis Road. You can also see some of the TECO work that is going on. There's some very large power poles that they've put in there that you'll see throughout all of Hillsborough County now. This is the currently adopted future land use. The yellows that you see there are residential 6 in unincorporated Hillsborough County. The residential 9 that is just to the west and slightly to the north of the subject site across from Davis Road. That is residential 9 in the city of Temple Terrace. That is the point for the annexation across the street. Residential 9 is also in unincorporated Hillsborough County further to the south along Davis Road. And there's also some residential 18 in the city of Temple Terrace to the north and west, and some residential 12 to the north along Davis Roads. Really a mashup of different residential categories that we have here along Davis Road. If the amendment were to be adopted, this shows the residential 9 in the city of Temple Terrace. The potential, truthfully, this is a 1-for-1. However, with the idea of the comprehensive plan going to residential 9, it does allow for 2 dwelling units of a potential there. They have put a rezoning in with the city to keep the 1 house that is there. Why is the city asking for residential 9? The city does not have a residential 6 land use category. The city has a residential 4, the city has a residential 9. So we are at an impasse with that, and residential 9 makes sense to the city. Some of the consistency neighborhoods. This is a single-family detached neighborhood immediately to this area. However, there is some multifamily to the north as well as to the south. Being that it is an existing built single-family neighborhood, there are a number of policies in the Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan that talk of neighborhood protection, as well as the annexation policies of orderly annexation, and this does meet the intent of orderly annexation. With that, the recommendation is to find Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan Amendment, TTCPA 1805, from Hillsborough County Residential 6 to Residential 9 on 0.27 acres, consistent with the Imagine 2040 Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan, and forward this recommendation to the Temple Terrace City Council. I thank you for your time. This concludes this presentation.
Okay, thank you. Anyone from Temple Terrace here to speak? Would you like to speak? Okay. Any public comment on this item? No public comment. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Dix?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, it's only one. Can I ask Jay, you know, obviously we're here to decide whether it's consistent or not, and I certainly don't see any reason not to do so, but I'm just always confused why they're doing just 1 lot. I mean, the logic to me escapes me for the city to go through that much trouble and aggravation for 1 property. Why not expand and allow some of those other people to come in as well?
Sure. My understanding, and the city can either confirm this or tell me I'm completely wrong, is that single-family home, when it's 1 single-family home that is interested in coming into the city, it's developed as it is. It's not a single-family home that may then be subdivided into more single-family homes. There is a track record, if you will, of if I own that property, I come to the city, I ask to be annexed, and the city will do that on its behalf.
Yeah.
Commissioner Dix, you got another question?
Does it make logical sense that we can save everyone time and effort if we just kind of poll some of the neighbors and see if they might like to join in the annexation?
And the city of Temple Terrace has in the past done exactly that about holding elections.
I mean, because I guess because I've been a former elected official in the city, but not Temple Terrace, but Plant City. But I think annexation can be a good thing. I mean, it can lower their taxes, increase their services. I mean, there's a good thing. And I just don't know that we do a wonderful job spreading that news to the neighborhood when one person comes in like this. But that's supposed to be a question, so what do you think about that?
To that, on the annexation policy of the city of Temple Terrace, I would most definitely yield to the city of Temple Terrace.
Thanks.
But I'll gladly talk to you anytime about annexation policy that I know of.
Good evening. I'm Andrea College, city planner with Temple Terrace. We did send letters to all of the adjoining property owners in that particular subdivision, letting them know that this property had requested to be annexed, and if they were interested, we'll be more than happy to annex them as well. We have not received any letters back, but as part of our plan, it is to continue to reach out to them as we're moving in that direction. So we're identifying that area as an area that we like to work with.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jay, I just had one question, and it probably doesn't have any direct implications on this, but this, you know, with this type of proposed land use change, let's say, because there isn't a, you said there isn't a.
There is not a residential six.
Residential six.
For the city of Temple Terrace.
Okay, but does this also create an opportunity for a homeowner to add an accessory dwelling unit? Could they do it under this under this situation? I mean, this is probably rather rare, but
The city is currently working on our accessory dwelling unit policy. We don't actually have one in place. So we allow them when they're attached, so they could build an attached dwelling unit. But to have a detached one, we're still working on that policy. No one's really allowed to have one detached right now.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? No questions? Someone like to make a motion? Oh, it's for me.
Turn it back on. Okay. I'm sorry, that we find Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan Amendment 1808 consistent with the future land use, I'm sorry, with the comprehensive plan of the city of Temple Terrace.
Got a motion by Commissioner Green, second by Commissioner Dowdy. Any further discussion before we vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We're going to move on to Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan Amendment 18-06.
Thank you, sir. Again, Jay Collins, Planning Commission staff. 1806 is along Fowler Avenue. This is the third plan amendment for tonight, 4 for the city of Temple Terrace. You'll see it there, the outline of that in yellow. Again, this is also an annexation. You can see here on the aerial, the subject site is outlined in purple on the north side of Fowler Avenue. There are some other commercial uses in the immediate area. This is a commercial site currently operating as auto repair. You'll see the single-family detached neighborhood immediately to the rear of the site, and you'll also see the Hillsborough River further off to the north. Greco Middle School is located just to the west and just to the south of the subject site. And you'll notice also just south, on the south side of Fowler Avenue is a subdivision. This is an interesting area of Fowler Avenue as some of the subdivisions back straight up to Fowler Avenue. There is a wall there. They don't have access. It's not as though there are driveways out onto Fowler. But instead of seeing commercial property along Fowler Avenue, it's the subdivision in this general area. So the background here, this is privately initiated. It is an annexation. It is small scale. It's just over ½ an acre. Today in the county, it has a residential 6 land use. In the city of Temple Terrace, the privately initiated applicant is asking for a commercial land use. Again, that picture there shows the site as the auto repair. Here is the site again, looking west from Fowler Avenue. And here's what I was speaking of, looking south from Fowler Avenue directly across the street at the subdivision. So this is the current adopted future land use. Here we have residential 6. The last land use amendment we had also had residential 6. This is a little different with what goes on right here along Fowler Avenue. If I had a zoning map for you, you would notice that all of that residential 6 that is on Fowler Avenue actually has a commercial neighborhood zoning. That is how you actually ended up getting these uses along Fowler Avenue today. Whether it's an auto body shop here or any of the other uses that have operated along Fowler Avenue for quite some time now. Over the past decade or so, they have slowly been annexing into the city of Temple Terrace. And that's why if we zoom this map out, you would see kind of what looks like teeth popped up, popped down, popped up, popped down, as there's annexations that are occurring on the north side of Fowler Avenue, where there's a trend for the residential 6 in the county to become commercial in the city of Temple Terrace. It's not actually on this particular map. It was just to discuss the fact that there is residential 6 on Davis Road and residential 6 here on Fowler. However, they are being used completely different from one another due to the zoning that exists on this piece of property. Here is the proposed future land use showing the commercial if Temple Terrace City Council were to approve. So the potential densities and intensities, currently 3 dwelling units on that piece of property or just over 6,000 square feet of commercial and office uses. Again, from discussions with staff upstairs, this does not actually meet locational criteria, so they have that CN, that's all they would ever have. So for them to actually improve this site, they need to annex in or they would actually have to ask for a different land use in the county. So the potential would be 5 dwelling units as part of a mixed-use development or up to 12,632 square feet of commercial office uses. With that in mind, there's an equivalency matrix as you create that mixed use, put the residential units in, you take some of that commercial out if the applicant were to choose to do such a thing. So some of the consistency, particularly in neighborhoods, this is located along a multimodal corridor being Fowler Avenue, multimodal corridors. Throughout Temple Terrace, the county, the city of Tampa. It's all pretty much the same thing where one is asking for a redevelopment along those corridors with infrastructure to meet that redevelopment need. Here to bring a different modes of transportation, so whether those modes are bike, pedestrian, transit modes, or just to move single occupancy vehicles around. And as those different infrastructures improve, you should see a mixture of uses along these corridors. This would actually encourage that. It would allow for a greater commercial use at this site. Non-residential development, again, this is a fine example of a potential for infill redevelopment of a commercial use along Fowler Avenue. Growth management strategy as well, being that Fowler Avenue, with that multimodal corridor that exists there, with the growth management of doing compact urban development along the corridors. With that recommendation is to find that the Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan Amendment TTCPA 1806 from Hillsborough County Residential 6 to commercial on 0.58 acres consistent with the Imagine 2040 Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan and forward this recommendation to the Temple Terrace City Council. Thank you for your time and this concludes this portion of the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to speak on this item? Any public comment on this item? No public comment. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Green?
I just wanted to reiterate something that Jay mentioned, and this because this is close to where I live. I see this all the time, or go by here all the time. There are a lot of the entire south side of Fowler is residential, except for just about 1/8 of a mile closer to 56th Street. The north side is almost entirely commercial and was, for the most part, in the county. And now we're seeing, this is what Jay was describing, how you see the little jogs around individual pieces of property being annexed now into the city of Temple Terrace, because just north of that is still in the county. Okay, but I think this is. And we've seen this happen on the other end of Fowler in the city of Tampa, because all the way past the university, it was the same situation. That frontage, the commercial frontage was in the city of Tampa, yet University Mall, everything back behind it is in the county. I think you're absolutely right. This is going to continue to evolve or change as commercial development along that face. So, Mr. Chairman, if there's no other comment,
Yeah, let me just check,
Question?
see. Any other questions?
Question.
Let me let Commissioner Willman real quick.
Is this application publicly initiated by the city of Temple Terrace?
No, this is privately initiated.
Is there a reason why it wasn't publicly initiated by the city of Temple Terrace? Or I'm just curious what the difference was between the last one we heard and then this one.
Okay. This Andrea College city planner with Temple Terrace. The last one that we heard, it was privately initiated residential. This one is privately initiated commercial use. The applicant runs an auto shop, and he has several other businesses within the city, and he would like to be able to do all his business in the city. So that he came in and requested that he would like to annex the property.
Commissioner Willman?
What was the difference, though, between it not being a publicly initiated?
I'm sorry.
It's not a public, I understand
Neither
this
one was
is-
publicly initiated.
The last one was,
The single-family home is publicly initiated by the city.
Oh, they requested the.
Yeah,
I think I can expand.
Yeah, explain that one, because my understanding is they started.
Mark Hudson, Planning Commission staff. My understanding of the difference between the two is the first one was publicly initiated because there's not any real additional development potential there. There's a single-family home there today. After this process goes through, there'll still be a single-family home. There isn't a significant cost to go through that process that the Temple Terrace didn't feel should be borne by the applicant. The second case has been privately initiated because they are gaining additional entitlements. It will allow that business to expand, and the city felt that they should initiate that and bear the cost of that plan amendment.
okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Green, you'd like to make a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I'd like to find, or rather recommend that we find Temple Terrace Comp Plan Amendment 1806 consistent with the comprehensive plan of Temple Terrace. Move this forward.
Got a motion by Commissioner Green, a second by Commissioner Wilds. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next up is Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan Amendment 18-07.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jay Collins, Planning Commission staff. This is the last amendment for the city of Temple Terrace. This would be the fourth annexation that we will speak of tonight. Again, this is also a privately initiated annexation here. Where we are located here is basically the southeastern extremes of the city. You actually saw an amendment that actually was right next to this, which was 1804. 1804 coming into the city has allowed the owner of this piece of property to petition to annex into the city of Temple Terrace and go through the plan amendment phase. So where are we? Again, here along Maceland Avenue in Professional Place. We are basically at the southeastern corner of that. Directly to my west on that map, where you can see the jut out of the boundary, was the plan amendment that we spoke of for the last cycle. And you can see the other industrial uses in the immediate area. So the background, again, this is privately initiated annexation. This is just over 2.2 acres. Currently in the county has a community mixed use 12 land use, and in the city of Temple Terrace, the petitioner has asked for industrial. That picture is directly across the street from the subject site. This is the subject site. It is a vacant site. This is looking south at Mason Drive. I do apologize, as I do not know if this had something on this site at one time. So I do not know if this site is contaminated or not. Here we have the intersection of Professional Place and Maceland Drive, again showing you some of the uses that are around in the immediate area. And here we are looking north from Professional Place, basically showing you the layout of the area and some of the small warehouse and distribution facilities, as well as light manufacturing, metal fabrication, and the like that occurs at this location. This is the future land use map showing you the community mixed use 12 in unincorporated Hillsborough County. There's also a community mixed use 12 in the city of Temple Terrace to the north and to the west. They share the same color, much of the same traits. And then you can see the industrial directly to the west running all throughout the industrial park. If the amendment were to be approved by the Temple Terrace City Council, some of the potential density and intensities today, they could ask for as many as 26 dwelling units on that piece of property. However, it is in an industrial park. So with that in mind, the commercial and industrial uses on it are just over 48,000 square feet, possibility to ask on that piece of property. When you go into the city of Temple Terrace for industrial, your FAR does increase to 0.65. Today, that community mixed use 12 has an FAR of 0.5. That shows some of the potential benefit of annexing into the city of Temple Terrace. A number of consistency issues at hand here. Industrial neighborhoods, the city of Temple Terrace does mention industrial neighborhoods as well as those neighborhoods that they wish to grow, basically economic development areas. This is just around the corner from the 301 and Harney Road economic development area, and so industrial uses are thought of as being complementary to the economic development area located there. It also meets all the intent of the good growth management and annexation policy language, being that it is right next to a piece of property that just came into the city for an annexation. And with that, it's the Fine Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan Amendment, TTCPA 1807, from Hillsborough County Community Mixed Use 12 to industrial on 2.21 acres, consistent with the Imagine 2040 Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan, and forward that recommendation to the Temple Terrace City Council. I thank you for your time. This concludes this presentation.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to speak on this item? Okay. Any public comment on this item? Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Green?
Make a motion? Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I move that we find Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan Amendment 18-07 consistent with the comprehensive plan of Temple Terrace. Move this forward. Thank you.
Okay. Got a motion by Commissioner Green, second by Commissioner Kress. Any further discussion before we vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. This public hearing is adjourned. We're going to jump right into the next public hearing. So welcome to the March 11th, 2019 public hearing of the Planning Commission on Plant City Comprehensive Plan Amendments. We thank you for attending the meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. If you will, please sign the register at the rear of the room and turn off any devices that may be a distraction. If you wish to address the commission on a specific amendment, we ask that you please complete the appropriate public comment sign-in sheet at the back of the room. When addressing the commission, please state your name, address, and speak directly into the microphone. For those of you who are not familiar with our process, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given an opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chairman. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal or response. Planning commissioners will then ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. Roll call, please.
Good evening, Powell. Here. Dix. Green.
Present.
Joseph.
Here.
Kress. Here. Marino.
Here.
Willman.
Here.
Thrower.
Here.
Wilds.
Here.
Dickerson.
Here.
Rodriguez. Dowdy.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move right into Plant City Comprehensive Plan Amendment 18-08.
Mark Hudson, Planning Commission staff. The Planning Commission is processing only one plan amendment for the city of Plant City this cycle, PCCPA 1808. Generally, this is located in the southwest quadrant of the city. You can see by its location on Plant City's vision map. It's quite close to a major commercial activity center at the corner of, or at the interchange of Thenona Sassa Road and I-4. Again, if we be more specific, it's north of West Baker Street, between North Enterprise Street and North Whitehurst Road. Getting a little bit closer, this is the site that's affected. It's a part of a parcel that is a flag lot, and it's the back portion of the parcel that's being affected. You can see by this arrow that it abuts the commercial corridor of West Baker Street, which is also US 92. A little bit further to the east is the beginning of the Strawberry Festival grounds, which just concluded this Sunday. Further north and south on both the north side and south side of West Baker Street are land uses that equate to residential 12 and residential 6 in Plant City, and you'll see that more clearly when I show the future land use maps. Give you a little bit of detail on the plan amendment. It is privately initiated. It's a small-scale amendment, being just under 1 acre at 0.97 acres. One curious thing about the plan amendment is it does have a historic neighborhood business zoning district, or C1A. This is the reason the applicant has asked for the plan amendment is it currently has a land use of residential 12, and that residential 12 does not meet the locational criteria of the comprehensive plan, and therefore the entire site cannot be used for commercial activities unless it goes through this process and receives a commercial designation on the land use, and that was the reasoning for the application. This shows the subject site looking northwest. This shows you some of the adjacent uses, a laundromat to the west, and a tire repair shop to the east. And this shows you give you a little bit of the character of West Baker Street of US 92 at this location. The site abuts residential homes, both to the north, east, and west, and this just shows you some typical examples of those homes. And here's another example. And there's also a commercial strip center just to the east across Whitehurst Road, and this shows you a photograph of that area. This is the future land use map as it sits today, and it shows you the plan amendment site circled in a dashed black line. Again, it's a flag lot, and it gains access via US 92. You can see the commercial corridor of US 92 designated in red, and the Strawberry Festival grounds further to the east in the public, semi-public blue. And you can see the residential 12 that surrounds the site, and further afield the residential 6 that represents the residential development north of West Baker Street. If the plan amendment was approved, this is how the map would change, changing that designation from the dark yellow color to the red of commercial. What are the potentials to develop the site based on this application? Currently, the 11 dwelling units could be built on the site. Now, it can be built based on the residential 12 to have 14,788 square feet of non-residential uses. However, that would not include commercial office. They could, for example, build a church, but they could not build a commercial office because, again, they do not meet the locational criteria of the comprehensive plan. If this was approved, the residential potential would drop to only 3 dwelling units, and the square footage of the non-residential uses would remain unchanged. However, it would open it up to commercial office development. Staff did review this plan amendment by many portions of the comprehensive plan, but particularly dealing with neighborhood conservation, community development, commercial development, growth management, provision of public facilities, and economic growth. Also, in our discussions with the city, we're based on the zoning that will be required to buffer this use from the adjacent neighborhoods to the north, east, and west. We did present the same presentation to the Plant City Planning Board on February 27th. They did vote 5-0 in favor of this application. Of course, we're here to garner your recommendation today. This is scheduled for adoption, being a small-scale amendment, in front of the City Commission on April 22nd. With that, our staff recommends that you find the proposed land use designation change for Plant City Plan Amendment PCCPA 1808 from residential 12 to commercial on the 0.97 acres consistent with the Imagine 2040 Plant City Comprehensive Plan, and forward this recommendation to the Plant City Commission. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to speak on this item?
I'm Pamela Jo Hatley. I'm at 14517 North 18th Street in Tampa. We just want to say that we agree with the staff report. We believe that this small-scale amendment furthers the comprehensive plan's provisions that support infill on vacant land with adequate public facilities, and promotes the economic development in the city with job opportunities. And we understand, of course, that the land development regulations provide for protections for adjacent residential uses, and that, of course, will be applied to this site. Out of abundance of caution, of course, we hire our own consultant to analyze the application and formulated opinion. So I know that you are familiar with Robert Hunter, but just to put his qualifications into the record, of course, he has bachelor's and master's degree in architecture. He's been director of planning in San Antonio, Texas, and Reno, Nevada. More recently, of course, with this agency from 1986 to 2012. And so he's here just to speak briefly too, please. Thank you.
Commissioners, good afternoon. Bob Hunter. My address is 4111 Kipling Avenue, Plant City, Florida, which I've been there probably 30 years or so. It's interesting speaking from this side of the podium. Glad to see all of you. I've reviewed the application. I've also looked at the future land use map, the future land use element, and the Envision 2040 Plant City Plan, along with staff's recommendation. From my professional opinion, I think it is consistent. We agree with your staff and their findings, and I recommend that you concur with your staff's recommendation of finding this consistent with the plan and recommending same to the Plant City Commission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment on this item? Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one question. Mark, what's the frontage on Baker Street?
The actual frontage?
The frontage.
Let me see if I can get back to that. It's very small. The applicant may have a survey handy that they could tell you, but you can see it is a flag lot. However, I will say the property owner also owns the adjacent property as well to the east. So they actually have not only that little flag lot, but also the adjacent property to the east as far as frontage is concerned.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Someone like to make a motion? Oh, Commissioner
Mr.
Dix.
Chairman, I would move that we find this amendment to be consistent with the Imagine 2040 Plant City Comprehensive Plan and forward it on to the Plant City Commission.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Dix. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Green. Any further discussion before we vote? All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. That was the last public hearing for the evening. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.